Hello, I'm Jackson Burns, I'm a Redneck Archaeologist. I'm here at Fort Smith, Arkansas, in front of Judge Parker's Courthouse. This used to be the U.S. Army barracks. They built this, it was called Camp Smith because of my ancestors. The Cherokees that moved here, they had a few white people, the Williams, that were involved with them, Chisholms and all that. White men had married into the Cherokees under Chief Diwali. They were called the Old Settlers, and they had moved into this area and they started a war with the Osage Indians, and Camp Smith, they had to come here and build Camp Smith right out that way. Major Bradford did. And it evolved into this Army barracks in Fort Smith, and they changed it to Fort Smith. And here we are, later Judge Parker, Isaac Parker, the hanging judge, ruled all of western Arkansas and the Indian Territory out of that courthouse that was located inside that building. Down beneath it is what's called Hell on the Border, and that was where they kept all the criminals, down in the very bottom in the basement, in like a dungeon. This is Fort Smith National Park Service. It's the Gallows behind me. This is the prison wagon. This is what they would bring them in, loaded into this wagon, as many as they could. "79 men were hung from this gallows. It was designed to hang 12 men at a time, although the most that was ever hung from it was 6 men at one time, several times. Below me is the list of all the men who died here. This is the man who hung them. His name was Maladin, and he was a damn Yankee."
Against capital punishment.
Excuse me, ma'am. Hold on there, partner. Can't go in this side without a ticket. But I want to.
That is me talking in this. I did all the audios and made the videos for this.
They were sending up 6 Indians. Now this ain't no carnival.
So this is me talking as playing these marshal.
The newspaper reported 9. Hangman Maladin is now preparing the execution of 9 men on Thursday next, January 16, 1890, which is the largest number ever hung here at one time.
Well, that's right, ma'am. Maladin even had the old gallows freshly whitewashed from top to bottom. But the president, he granted a reprieve until January 30th for the 2 Negroes, Bullard and Tobler. And then the sentence of Madison James, a young Choctaw, was commuted to 15 years in prison. Judge Parker recommended that one.
I didn't realize Judge Parker would do such a thing. His reputation.
You don't like hanging nobody, ma'am, but it's the law. Otherwise, out here, there'd be hell to pay.
He said as much in the paper when he sentenced the original 9. They're cold-blooded murders. If you were to search the world over, you could not find 9 crimes so black as these. And yet 7 of these men are Indians.
Kind of surreal,
which is
isn't
also
it?
an unusual thing. What does he mean, Deputy?
Behind this door is the most infamous jail in the Old West. Hell on the Border. Men died of disease. They were later hung. If they tried to escape, they would be shot. They were kept down here. They had one bucket for all the men. There could be over 200 men in this one little room. It's more of a dungeon. They would feed them gruel and slop to eat. They were black, they were white, they were red, they were Native Americans, they were Hispanic, there were even a couple of females. Hell on the Border. Judge Parker's Courthouse, Fort Smith, Arkansas. This is where it happened at. Behind me is the Commissary storehouse. A lot of people have made comments that Judge Parker did not watch the hangings from there, or they didn't even stay there or anything like that. I beg to differ. He had an office in this building. He did watch the hangings, which were right over there. From this office. Commissary. Stonehouse, storehouse. This building held supplies for explorers and for soldiers in 2 wars. It's a very historic storehouse. They came here, it was first built in 1839 for the Indian Wars. Or they had the removals also. Camp Smith was designed for the Cherokee Osage Wars, where they first came here for that reason, and then they built this to bring in supplies. Jessup, what was his name? Brigadier General Thomas Jessup, he was a quartermaster, had the bright idea of making Camp Smith into Fort Smith and making a supply route for all the western exploration. This is where it was all kept at. This is the oldest building still standing in Fort Smith, Arkansas. From there you can see the Gallows. In 1861, General Albert Pike, who's pictured here, became the commander of the Indian troops, the Confederate Indian troops in this area. After the Civil War and the defeat of the Confederacy, the Indians had fought for both the North and for the South, and they were equally divided amongst themselves whenever they came after the end of the war. They were still battling each other. There was a compromise made, and this man over here, his name was Allen Wright, Chief Allen Wright, a Creek I believe it was, or a Choctaw, I don't know what he, yeah, Choctaw, took Choctaw words and said Oklahoma. They wanted to use, that's how they used for the name of the territory, to further it into statehood if it could ever happen. They all met in this building behind me. All the Indians did with the United States government to try to find out what's going on and pledge allegiance to the United States, but they were told that all their property was forfeited, all their slaves were given up, they had to give up all their slaves, all their property could be confiscated, and they were treated like winners, both the northern Indians and the southern Indians, the ones that fought for both sides, were treated as objects of disdain from our United States government. There was no, they all met here, there was no treaty that was ratified, and they basically all went away grumbling about how they had been screwed, both sides, Yankees and the Southern. President Andrew Johnson's representatives met here. They treated all the Indians as defeated enemies, whether they fought for the North or for the South. The council ended with no resolve whatsoever, and they didn't expect to sign any kind of treaty. So the Indians simply pledged allegiance to the United States of America. And then later on they signed separate treaties with the government after that as sovereign nations. And so that's why the 5 civilized tribes in Oklahoma are considered sovereign nations to this day. That's where it happened. On this site, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Comanche, Muskogee, which are the Creek, Osage, Quapaw, Seminole, Seneca, Shawnee, Wichita, Wyandotte, and the United States all met in this building behind me to try to establish relations following the Civil War. This is in September of 1865, just a few months after the end of the Civil War. Nothing.
What you stepped from near last week was correct.
If you don't mind,
I'm Jackson Burns, Redneck Archaeologist, signing off from Fort Smith National Historic Site.
Someone may try to rescue him. Rough times now.
Who are the 6 men?
Here's Austin, full-blood Chickasha, killed a white man in cold blood.